Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, is gaming still on the table? Also, the V team takes a look at COVID wildfire. And Mo Brooks thinks Donald Trump's beautiful shot is a killer.
You got species killing other species, our species killing all species, including the forest, and we just call it industry.
Industry. In Alabama, we call it politics. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and I'm joined today by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, Angie Horn, Republican political consultant, and Josh Moon, columnist at APR and investigative reporter. Welcome all.
Hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
Angie, good to have you back.
Thanks.
We always like it when you're on because it keeps Josh on his toes.
What?
This past week, Alabama's COVID-19 numbers have reached levels not seen since February, Susan. I mean, the number of new cases, confirmed cases, is something that we had not anticipated at this point, but here we are.
Yeah, as of Wednesday, we had 2,726 new confirmed COVID-19 cases. We're right now at the 7-day average is 1,931, which is an 815% increase from July 1. I mean, we're back in pandemic, folks.
I mean, and we see this. I know Governor Kay Ivey said, blamed the unvaccinated. That went over well in certain circles, but in Republican circles, Angie, that went over like a lead balloon, I think.
Well, I'll say this. 2020 was horrible. I don't want to do that again. I don't want to do that as an Alabamian, as a mother, as someone who owns a business. 2020 was awful. And I think we all know someone who died. So, yes, it is your choice whether or not you choose to get vaccinated. But you know who doesn't have a choice? People under 12 years old, which means I don't have a way to protect my child from your choices. And so I just think people need to be a little less selfish when they're doing their calculus on whether or not to get a vaccine. Listen to your doctor. Go talk to your doctor.
And that brings up a good point, and I think we should delve right into that. The CDC is given out guidelines about vaccinated people should, in certain circumstances, wear a mask again because of this Delta variant, which is 1,000 times more contagious. And we're seeing that there's going to be a big fight over whether kids should wear masks in schools. Now, both of you, Josh, and we'll start with you first, both of you have children that are yours is 3, but she's precious and she goes to daycare, and Angie has a wonderful son who goes to public school. And so what are y'all thoughts on masks for children?
Well, I don't know. The biggest thing is that, we just want her to obviously be safe. I would love it if there was a way to do that and put the kids in school and ensure that they're going to wear the mask. But they're 3 years old. I can't ensure she's going to wear clothes all day, And so, and so the idea that she's going to keep this mask on and it's not going to be, playing with it all day long and all that stuff. I think that's very, very hopeful. At the same time, I would like to see more data on which kids are getting sick from this. Is it mainly the teenagers or the older kids that are getting sick from this thing? If so, then I think we ought to kind of structure what we're telling schools to do based on that data. If it's younger kids as well, then I think parents have a real tough choice here, and I mean that's one that we're talking about. My wife and I is just taking her out of school, taking her out of daycare, keeping her at the house, hiring somebody to come into the house and watch her while we're at home working, and that's we have that option because I happen to work for great people, and so we have people who are very understanding of that, and so I know other people don't have that option, and I don't know what you do. I mean, the fear of that is overwhelming at times.
I mean, Angie, Jax is, precious boy who started out, had a little rough, but doing great now. I mean, how is a mother of a young son, what's your reaction to this?
So my son is 7 years old. He goes to a small private school. And so I'm very fortunate that we go to a school in which COVID is something they take extremely seriously. Here is my concern as a mother. I don't think my 7-year-old should have a job. And my 7-year-old certainly shouldn't have a job of protecting himself from the choices of adults. So if you want to remain unvaccinated, that's fine. But I also think that you should take the step to say, I'm going to stay away from people who are under 12 years old because they don't have a choice. And, when my son was born, he was in NICU. And, if you didn't get vaccinated, if you didn't get a flu shot, I didn't let you near him. But he has to go to school. And so if you are going to make that determination for yourself, please feel free to do so. But don't come around children under 12 because they can't make that choice.
I mean, Susan, this is a tough time. I mean, we know mandates have worked in the past. I mean, polio was mandated, measles, smallpox. Those things were mandated for school, for children and adults in certain areas. You cannot do that today because we would have open revolt in the streets. But people will not take responsibility for themselves.
No, and because they've made it a political issue. I mean, instead of a health issue, this is not a political issue. It is not. I mean, yes, maybe you're deciding not to vax on the fact that it's your liberty, it's your right to do so. But is it also your right to infect others? Are you infringing on their liberties, on their rights by not getting vaccinated and possibly contaminated other people?
Well, we usually say your liberty ends when it endangers someone else's life. I mean, we live with all types of mandates. I mean, cars, seats, or safety belts.
But as and I think this is key. As Republicans, we are overwhelmingly pro-life. We are all about protecting children. And right now, if you are walking around unvaccinated while also being around children, that is the opposite of pro-life. That is the opposite of conservative. This is a vaccination that was developed under the Trump administration that Donald Trump and his family have all taken. So go talk to your doctor. Do the right thing to protect children.
Yeah, I want to say, too, that we have a lot of people that talk a lot about the love of country and the love of sacrificing for your country and doing what you can for this country and stuff. And listen, I love the country as much as anybody. And I think it's a pretty small sacrifice for my fellow Americans, for me to go get a shot, because I don't believe I was ever going to really be sick. I've never had the flu in my life, and maybe I'm an idiot and I would have been deathly ill at some point, but I didn't think so. But I still went and got the shot. I still went and got this vaccine to make sure that I didn't carry it around and spread it to other people, to make sure that I didn't infect the elderly, to make sure that I didn't infect people who are immunocompromised. And so I think, to me, it's a matter of what kind of society and what kind of country do we want to live in? Do you really want to sacrifice for people? Because this is a pretty small step for most people, okay? And listen, if you have medical conditions and things like that, I get all that, okay? Go talk to your doctor. Y'all decide what's best. But at the same time, if you don't, if you've never had an allergic reaction to anything, if you're a pretty healthy person, go get the shot, man, and put an end to this.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. Let's put an end to this. I'm tired of lockdown.
I'm sick of masks.
All right, you're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Your career isn't a job, it's a journey. Your next job could lead to bigger things, and you're in charge of how fast and how far you want to go. At alabamaworks.com, you can connect with employers and start working right now. Then chart your path forward with training and career planning tools. That next paycheck is great, but it's only the beginning. Start a great success story at alabamaworks.com.
So you got caught speeding. But this time you got more than a ticket.
What are you in for?
Vehicular homicide.
Stop speeding before speeding stops you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. You know, we were talking about vaccination. I want to continue down this road just a little bit more. Recently, U.S. Senate hopeful, Congressman Mo Brooks, Susan, made news by taking aim at Fort Rucker, our Army base. And what he said is he went after the leadership at Fort Rucker because they said that if you come on to the base, you either have to wear a mask or have proof of vaccination. But Mr. Brooks, who cannot keep his mouth shut or his brain from falling out, didn't stop with attacking the mask. He said, and I'll read this, "Our soldiers should not be intimidated or coerced by the government into taking an experimental shot that has death and other ill effects, risk associated with it." I mean, what is this guy reading the last part of one of those commercials on television? And it would cause hives and irritation, bowel irritation, and death.
Well, I guess he read that before he got the vaccine.
Yeah. No.
So, but on the other side of that, I mean, he and his wife have both been vaccinated. I don't know why he's doing all this other than for political reasons, which actually shows how shallow this man is in his bid for the Senate. I mean, this is pure selfishness in a bid for campaign, which is where all of this started, was bid for campaigns.
And Angie, I'm going to throw this to you. I want to read a marked statement from former President Trump. I hope everyone remembers when they're getting the COVID-19, often referred to as the China virus, vaccine, that if I wasn't president, you wouldn't be getting that beautiful shot for 5 years at best and probably wouldn't be getting it at all. I hope everyone remembers. Is it a beautiful shot, Angie, or is it a killer? I don't know. Mo Brooks seems to think.
I'll say this. President Trump put measures in place to remove restrictions to allow us to have this vaccine. That is absolutely true. This is a vaccine that was developed under the Trump administration, that President Trump and his family got, and that Mo Brooks got. Mo Brooks' wife got this shot. They have said that publicly. What I find interesting about his statements about Fort Rucker are, first, not only Susan's right, 100% political banter. And it's another example of do as I say, not as I do, because he got the shot to protect himself. He doesn't want to protect our military. And that is par for the course for Mo Brooks, who also vote after vote after vote doesn't protect our military with his votes, has spoken before and said that he really doesn't have much concern about the fate of places like Fort Rucker. So the fact that Mo Brooks is trying to feign some sort of interest in the military now is nothing but political banter.
I mean, Josh, this is guys who in the 70s would have been considered a draft dodger because he was afraid of being drafted into the Vietnam War. But you reported this week that the Department of Justice dealt a serious blow to Brooks over his rhetoric at January 6th. The Justice Department said that conspiring or fomenting an attack on the Capitol is not within the scope of his job as a congressman. So what's up,
surprise
Josh?
to everyone, right? Yeah, surprise to everybody. Apparently, trying to overthrow the U.S. government is not a viable part of a congressman's duties. Yeah, while he wore a Kevlar vest at the rally. Listen, what Mo Brooks is doing here is basically par for the course for a lot of Republicans, which is to play the easiest way that they can play. Okay, they don't know how to govern. They have no ideology that they can rely on, that they can lean on anymore, and so they just do the easiest thing possible, which is, oh hey, a lot of people don't want to get this shot, so let's tell them that it might kill them. Okay. Yeah, we'll agree with you. It might kill you, even though I've gotten it and it's the only thing that's going to save us from this pandemic. We'll take this easiest road possible to placate this group of noisy people over here and pretend to be the hero. And that's what Mo Brooks has done throughout his entire career. You look at what he's done throughout his time in Congress, through the past 11 years in Congress. He's not managed to pass a single piece of legislation. And he just sat there and sucked up taxpayer money while he railed against black and brown people. And that has been his MO for Mo.
So, Angie, you're going to let Josh filibuster this segment?
No, I was just waiting for him to shut up. So where we are is that Josh seems to believe that we're having some secret Republican meetings where we're all sitting around saying, don't get the shot and don't govern well. Well, unfortunately for Josh, nothing could be further from the truth. Mo Brooks does not represent the majority of Alabama Republicans, which is why his fundraising is so bad and why the majority of it is not from Alabama. What Mo Brooks is doing is trying to capitalize on anything he can to save a fledgling campaign. Republicans do not get together and try to decide what we're going to do to try to pump up Mo Brooks or anyone else.
Can you name one thing Republicans have done to help people through this pandemic? Can you name one thing that Republicans have done? One thing state Republicans have done.
Absolutely. The Republican administration created the vaccine.
One thing that state Republicans have done.
To create the vaccine that we are now trying to encourage people to get. So
one thing that state Republicans
they did to help.
One thing that state Republicans have done.
What was that, Bill?
Oh, I was just going to say.
What state Republicans have done is done everything they could to help, A, encourage people to have the vaccine. They have, B, helped to create.
No, they haven't.
What
They've undermined every step. What are you talking about? They did the vaccine passport ban. They did the mask mandate ban. They're up there running around constantly trying to undermine all the efforts to get people vaccinated. This is their MO. That's what they've done through the entire legislative session.
Vaccines are available at 1,400 locations across the state of Alabama.
Thanks to President
one county in Alabama that has less than 5 vaccine locations, and they are all free. So do not
Thanks
tell
to
me
President
the
Biden.
Administration has not done anything. That's just fallacy.
They have done
Of
nothing.
a losing Democratic parties and doesn't understand why you continue to fail at the ballot box.
Why don't you just thank President Biden and we can move on?
All right. Well, I want to thank y'all for this endorsement. We'll probably have to pick this up on the other side, but down in Texas, the Lone Star State, this past week, President Trump's candidate, Susan Wright, was defeated by another Republican. And what I found interesting, and I'm going to turn to you, Angie, on this, is that this was exactly the same type of endorsement that he gave to Mo Brooks, and it was Club for Growth. But we're going to have to leave this here and pick it up after the break, Susan.
Yeah, we are.
All right.
It's too long.
Too long. We cannot shortchange the Lone Star State. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with some more Rock'em Sock'em Robot.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
If you've been working, you've already proven yourself in ways you may not even notice. Managing your time, communicating effectively, and working as part of a team are key skills that employers value. At alabamaworks.com, you can find out how to build on your experience to up your game and get the job you really want because it's out there. Start your new success story at alabamaworks.com.
Sponsored by Alabama Works, the Alabama Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. I want to go back to the Texas election as a district outside of Dallas-Fort Worth and conservative district, and 2 Republicans were running against each other, and former President Trump, backed Susan Wright. That was his favorite candidate. The Club for Growth spent about $1 million on Mrs. Wright's campaign, and she was soundly beaten, whatever that is. She was soundly beaten by another Republican. Angie, we're seeing this similar incident play out here in Alabama, or it could, where the president has endorsed Mo Brooks, and yet Katie Britt's outraised Mo. Club for Growth, of course, is behind Mo. Linda Blanchard certainly has a lot more money. So, I mean, are you seeing the similarities that I'm seeing?
I am. And it's, there are a great deal of similarities that I think Alabama voters and certainly as politicos are looking at. First, McIntosh, who is from Club for Growth, he's the one that sort of captains that ship, was a never Trumper. Club for Growth was a never Trump organization, much like, Mo Brooks did not endorse Donald Trump the first time as well. Once Trump got elected, much like Mo Brooks, Club for Growth then came on board the Trump train. But what's happening now, what happened in Texas, was McIntosh gave Trump bad information. It just was not true. People on the ground in Texas, like Rick Perry, who was part of Trump's cabinet, are saying, whoa, they're giving you bad information. Trump believed Club for Growth and therefore endorsed someone that got annihilated. That's what we're seeing here in Alabama. We're seeing Club for Growth, who wants desperately for their fellow 2017 anti-Trumper to get in office. So they are giving Mo Brooks bad information. I mean, they're giving Trump bad information, and we're seeing on the ground this is playing out differently. It happened with Luther Strange. It happened with Roy Moore. It's going to happen with Mo Brooks, is that you have these never Trumpers who are now pretending to be Trumpers and doing whatever they can to get a victory. And the only way that they think they can do it is to get Trump's endorsement, and those cards are beginning to fall.
Josh, I mean, I think this may play out the same way here in Alabama, but I want to move on to something else real quick. We know we're going to have special sessions on prisons, or at least we think there will be one on redistricting, and there has to be, which we'll have to have, and there have to be one on reapportionment. No,
not reapportionment.
Spending the
money, the COVID relief money.
Rescue plan money. Where is gambling at? Because Senator Greg Albritton, budget chair, friend of the Porch Creek Indians,
member of the Porch Creek Indians,
Jeff Poor's radio show down in Mobile, and said, hey, we can walk and chew gum. We can handle the prisons and gaming at the same time. What do you think, Josh, and what are you hearing?
Well, I think that's probably true, and I think a lot of our lawmakers, and I believe probably the governor's office as well, is seeing gambling as as kind of a cookie for voters here. They're about to do some things that are not going to be very popular or very interesting in special sessions, while they spend a whole lot of money to do these special sessions for things that they should have handled a long time ago, and that's going to anger a lot of people. And I think if you look at it, of all the things that they could do, the most popular thing among voters, and by a large margin, is gambling. All right, if they could come up with a comprehensive gaming bill that put some facilities around, basically the gaming bill that we've been debating for the last several months while they were in session, if they could put that on the board and get that passed and start that, I think it would be a very popular thing for a lot of them, even among the Republicans there. Very popular for them, especially for the governor, to say that she got this done finally after this amount of time that this has been on the table for so many people along the way. And you're talking about creating 11,000, 15,000 jobs over the course of time for these facilities in a lot of rural areas. I think it is a big cookie to throw out to a lot of people, and I think that's going to ultimately get it on the table, at least for a discussion. I don't know if it'll pass, but I think we can at least push it.
I mean, Susan, do you think this is politically a good move for Governor Ivey?
Yeah, I think so. This has been on the table for so many years. It's been up in the air for so many years. While it is being, we have gaming in Alabama, okay? Yeah. This is not like they're approving something new. This is just, clearing the lines, clearing the language, clearing the way it's handled here. So, we've gotten right up to the line so many times, especially this last session, right down to within minutes of a vote, and then it fell apart again. So I don't know how much if they get it done, I'll be surprised, but I hope they do.
Angie, you've been involved in a lot of special sessions and regular sessions. Do you think they have the ability to walk and chew gum? Do they have the bandwidth to pull this off in a special?
I think it depends on what gambling is. I mean, what are we talking about? Are we talking about a lottery? Are we talking about a compact with PCI? Are we talking about gaming? Where are the facilities? Who's going to own them? How are you doing licenses? There's all of these things that have to be worked out. And to work them out in a special session would be extremely, extremely difficult. So I think the only way gambling is going to work, a gambling bill is going to work, is everybody's got to have a consensus. And the bill has to go start to finish with no amendments, whatever everybody agrees on. But gambling means so many different things to so many people in the legislature. There's 140 of them. I think they would come up with 140 different versions of what that looks like. And combining those all into one thing, I think, is the biggest challenge for everybody. And so I don't see it happening.
Yeah. Well, I think the governor's office would want to see that, Josh, that they would come with a comprehensive package that could pass. I think that's the big deal.
Well, yeah,
what can pass?
I think they have one. I think they have one. The one that they had the votes for that. I mean, when you're relying on at the very end of this, the thing that tripped it up was basically Democrats. Then they were looking at trying to get some things for their constituencies in different areas, mainly Lowndes County. I think those issues have been settled, and if that's the case, you still have the same number of Republicans on board. Now you got the Democrats on board. You have more than enough votes to get the thing passed. If you go to the governor's office right now and say, here's our bill, this is what we want to pass, it's the same thing we were running through, we don't need a lot of debate, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this thing, I think it's something that they could push through in a special session, as long as, I think Angie's right about the different factors in there, but as long as you keep it to what they were about to pass anyway, I think you can get that done.
I think
Well,
better
and I
do
think
that.
I think the difference
Go ahead,
is now
Angie.
is you're in an election year. You have almost 25 guys in the House who don't have to answer for what they're about to do because they're not
That's
running for
true.
re-election. And so they only have to answer for their personal convictions. And I think some of those guys, would be willing to stand at the mic for a very long time.
Okay, so Mike,
I think some of them like the money.
out so well, right? All right, well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.